Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Boerne ISD trustee and owner of the Boerne Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Boerne City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros. Ready, aim, ceasefire.
Good morning. Welcome to Ceasefire, brought to you by the Boerne Bookshop. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And we've got a special show today. We've got Rabbi Yossi Marrus from the Chabad of Boerne. Thank you for joining us, Rabbi. This is pretty special.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, we've heard a little bit about you from Boerne and a few other people, and I thought, I need to track this guy down. I didn't even know we had a rabbi in Boerne, but apparently you've been here since 2022.
That's correct. Our history, I guess, is that we were in San Antonio for a little over 25 years. And 3 years ago, due to the growing Jewish presence in Boerne and in the Hill Country, we founded our organization and we moved here, celebrating 3 years this week, actually.
Oh.
And it's been just amazing.
Now, what's the word you...
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
That's right. That's congratulation in Hebrew. Well, good luck.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mazel tov.
You got it.
All right. There we go.
There you go.
I'm learning.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what brought you to Boerne? You mentioned a growing population. What does that look like? Because you're the first that I've met in Boerne.
No, it's not.
Who else have I met?
Mary.
Oh, I had no idea.
There you go.
I learned something new. All right.
Yeah,
you're the second. Sorry.
All right. Well, for us, like I said, I was born in New York, and we came to Texas almost 30 years ago, 28 and a half years ago, to work in Jewish outreach, nonprofits, and we worked at the synagogue in San Antonio, one of the synagogues there, and as an educator, taught in school for many, many years, the dean of the Jewish Day School. And a couple of years ago, we started to feel like there was more that we could contribute, and we started hearing about Boerne. The community is growing. There's really not much of a Jewish presence. Fredericksburg, Comfort, Kerrville, Boerne. And we started saying maybe there is something there. And we kind of started to feel that people that we had met were very excited. So we did something crazy that I think midlife, sometimes you do things like that.
Yeah.
And, our children, we have 6 wonderful children. None of them are living at home anymore. And
congratulations.
Thank you. That's where we're working on it. Now, if we can get them off the monthly, cash apps and Zells would be even better. But we came out here and we knew just a handful of families. And I can tell you that today in our database, we have about 120 Jewish families throughout the Texas Hill Country. And my belief is it's going to continue to grow. A lot of people are from California, which is interesting. Left California, don't like it there for a variety of reasons, and have come here. People, generally speaking, are affluent, are educated, and they want to connect spiritually to their faith. And the interesting thing, which of course I believe happens by the hand of God, is that after October 7th, 2023, with the worst pogrom on the Jewish people since the Holocaust, a lot of Jewish people have wanted to reconnect. They have this great sense of we're living through historical times and we need to reconnect with our faith. We need to reconnect with our people. Just to give one example, we're the ones that sponsor the Hanukkah celebration at Main Plaza every year. And 2 years ago, we were doing the event, and, I'm running around like a chicken without a head, typically meeting and greeting and saying hello. And my wife observes a young lady who, when I lit the menorah, the candelabra, tears streaming down her face. A woman in her 20s. So my wife walked over to her, "Are you okay?" And she, yes. You're sure you're okay? And she said, "I need this. I needed to reconnect with my people." And since then, they've become part of the family. It's very different, though. When people ask me, "So what's Boerne like?" My new line is, it's 30 minutes and 2 light years away from San Antonio.
Yes, I feel that way too sometimes.
And it's beautiful. We really love it here. It's so special. The people are so kind and generous. It reminds me of San Antonio 29 years ago, where you just met people. And I remember I would walk to services on Saturday where we don't drive, and people would stop me and offer me an umbrella, or, "Do you need a ride?" My next door neighbor, nice Methodist guy, would always say, "You sure you don't need a ride, Rabbi? I won't tell anybody." But such nice, good people. And wherever I go, I have to say the experience has been unbelievable. So welcoming, so warm, kind. I cannot tell you how many people have stopped me from HEB to the gas station saying, we love you, we love the Jewish people, God bless Israel. And for me, that's huge. People do not understand how many Jewish people are feeling today.
I'm really glad to hear that, because I feel like this community is that way, but it's nice to have it affirmed. And I really am glad that the community here is rallying around the Jewish people, because I think we all need to be.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Rabbi, you mentioned Kerrville and Fredericksburg a little while ago. If there is a Jewish person in Fredericksburg or beyond Mason, where do they worship?
That is an excellent question. I think there was a group that had met in Kerrville for many, many years. It's kind of, I think, falling apart. I really don't know much about it. But I know that our organization on social media and our website is jewishboerne.org. And we have a wonderful growing community. We meet Friday nights, we do services, and we have a meal. And then Saturday morning, we do Bible study, Torah study, and then once a month we have a big service and a meal. Of course, it's always about the meal. You know, you got to have meals. All the holiday celebrations, we do classes online. And the blessing is that the house that we rented is getting way too small. And we are hoping and praying for the next evolution, which would be to purchase a property, or, you know, I think in Boerne, you got to have a ranch. The only problem is nobody told me that a ranch comes with a $2 million price tag around here. So that's the dream, the hope, to create a space where families can come and celebrate and worship. And really, I think most importantly is find a spiritual home. And I think that in today's day and age, no matter what faith you come from, that is so important, because, you know, the waters are rising and the waters are rocking us back and forth, and there's so much going on. I mean, I wake up on a regular day, you open your phone and I get stressed out. Stressed out about Iran, stressed out about Israel, stressed out about American politics, stressed out about the economy. And so what's the constant? How do we calm ourselves and just be present and do our work, you know, and be there for our families and our loved ones? I think the answer is faith, and faith is big, and I think that everyone needs to tap into that oasis. So for Jewish people, that's what I'm trying to do.
Are there opportunities when you meet Friday night for people of different faiths to come and learn about your faith? Are we welcome to attend and learn, or is it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have an open door policy. Our biggest challenge is space. I mean, we have a tiny little sanctuary upstairs in the what's supposed to be our living room, which I moved all the furniture out. Got 40 seats, and we're just really maxed out. So there are so many people that I want to invite, you know, to come, but it's like I'm struggling. Passover, we do what's called the Seder meal, which is the ceremony of Passover Eve. And I literally had to turn people away. I had non-Jewish people that were calling me and saying, we would love to attend. And I said, you know, I would love to have you, but I have to give preference first to people who are of the Jewish faith, because they kind of have an obligation to do this. But it's such a blessing. I mean, 3 years ago, we moved out here, put out a shingle, and we said, well, if we're not bankrupt in 6 months, that will be a miracle. So, and I don't have any Bitcoin, by the way. The little bit that I bought through one of those platforms went bankrupt, and I never saw it again.
Oh, no.
So,
yeah, that happens.
I don't know. We're going to have a conversation with the Treasury Secretary.
I have some of that, too, and I don't know what it looks like.
One of my sons got big into that when he was in high school and had fun with it, and for Christmas gave me some little tenth of an ether coin or something like that. I don't know where it is.
I'll tell you.
Wherever
I remember driving out to Boerne 28 years ago. There was a Jewish family that lived out here, and I would go visit and study with mom and dad. And I remember probably drank a little too much scotch, and the cigars were always fantastic. And as I came out, I remember driving back, and it was pitch black. And that was the time I should have bought some real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Like the old line, you know, the best time to buy real estate is 20 years ago. But it's amazing. I have to say, really, I was pleasantly surprised at what a wonderful community Boerne is. People are just polite. They're nice. You walk in, people say good morning. They say good evening. They say God bless you. They're just super nice. I think it's a crying shame that the rest of the country is not like that. Because if we could just be kind to each other, regardless of faith or politics. I mean, I understand that people have differences of opinion. But when the rhetoric rises to the point that everyone's an idiot and everyone is just whatever, then you can't even have a conversation anymore. And I think that's such a shame.
I agree.
I totally agree. Yeah, sort of one of the reasons we did this is we want people to just talk and get along and understand each other a little more.
Communicate with each other in a better way.
So we're going to take a quick break here. There's a Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We'll come back with Rabbi Yossi Marrus. Boerne has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Boerne Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Boerne Bookshop. We pride ourselves on finding what you are looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Boerne Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Boerne, at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Boerne Bookshop. Welcome back to Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We're here today with Rabbi Yossi Marrus, and thank you for joining us. And I think Ron's got some deeper questions coming.
Here's the touchy stuff. Unfortunately, there's been a rise of anti-Semitism in this country. I don't know what has prompted all of that, but it's been increasing over the last few years. And we've seen two real heinous crimes this year alone, with the murder of the young couple in the nation's capital and then the terrorist attack in Boulder. What do you attribute to that rise in anti-Semitism? Why is that happening now?
That's a loaded question.
It's a tough question, I admit.
I think a couple of thoughts. Unfortunately, hatred exists. Anti-Semitism exists. It's existed for a very, very long time. Sometimes it goes into the background and we don't hear about it because it's not popular. Like after World War II, the Nazis are these heinous, terrible criminals, and therefore it's not cool to be anti-Semitic. But all of a sudden, when it becomes cool again, you see them coming out of the, I'll call them the tunnels of Gaza. And that's what we're seeing right now. Beyond that, there are a lot of people that have a lot of hate in their heart. They're angry, they have a lot of hate, and a lot of people that are very, very confused on top of that. And when you take all of that and you throw in a little firebomb into all of that, you just watch it explode. And that's what's going on right now. Unfortunately, you have those people that have always been anti-Semitic. They've always been anti-Israel. They do not recognize Israel as the eternal homeland of the Jewish people, even though the Bible will tell you about it, history will tell you about it. They really don't care. They just are trying to find any platform or any reason. We used to call them rent-a-crowd when you want to do riots. Yeah. I remember in New York growing up, the rent-a-riot crowd. They come in, they're professional agitators. They love to make trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. And then the bigger issue is the influence of Iran in the world and even in the United States. You have so many people who are, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but embedded terrorists, people that have come into this country, whether they're being funded by Qatar or Iran or others, and they're just looking for the right time. When they get that call, now is the time to go crazy. That's what they're doing. And you're seeing it on college campuses, places of higher learning, mind you, places that are, many of them have been built by the Jewish community. Billions of dollars invested by Jewish philanthropists, including Columbia. And then you have a surge of hatred, and on top of that, the ignorance. They're going to talk about Nazism and Marxism and socialism. These people are fools. They don't know anything about these movements, and they just want to tear this country down. So in my perspective, it's anti-Semitism, but it's also a very deep-rooted hatred of America. And that worries me as an American as well, because you want to tear this country down? Do you not understand the blessings of this country, the values? This country was built on the values of respecting each other. People say, I don't like Democrats or I don't like Republicans. And I say, one second. The founding fathers had a reason why they created two different sides of the aisle. There is a reason why there is a legislative branch of government. There's an executive. There's three branches of government. The founding fathers had a reason for this. It's because they wanted it to remain a democracy. And I think that people have lost their sense of history. They're lost their sense of understanding of what happens when you're fueled by hate. And I think I mentioned on the phone, when people say, oh, World War II was way over-exaggerated, or sometimes anti-Semitic people will say, 6 million Jews, it's a made-up number. And I said, first of all, how dare you? Yeah. Because there is documented facts. Second of all, I said, how many people were killed in World War II? And they'll say, well, 6 million. I said, no, it's 50 million. How many Americans, how many Canadians, how many Germans, how many Italians, how many French, how many Poles? 50 million people lost their lives. Now, 6 million Jews were brutally murdered for being Jewish, but 50 million people, and the Russians, you want to talk about Stalin? So it's such an ignorance of history. Talk about Jewish history and the Bible. So you really just see this hate. And I think with what happens in Israel, we see that also play out all over the world because America and Israel are allies. America understands Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. And Israel stands with America, and America stands with Israel, and that really upsets some people. So they start to take to the streets, so to speak, and then we see terrible anti-Semitism and murder happening. And my feeling as a Jew the other day was, one second, when George Floyd was killed, the country erupted in passionate protest, whether right or wrong, or I'm not even getting into that, but this was the site of that video that we can't forget of policemen and this man, and he lost his life, and everybody was furious, racism, etc. And my question is, 2 Israeli diplomats, they said they were Jewish. I think they were worshiping Christianity, if I understood it correctly, or Messianic, or whatever it was. They were murdered in cold blood as diplomats, guests of the United States. In Boulder, Colorado, people walking, firebombed. There's no protest. Yeah. It's just like, okay, it's anti-Semitism, turn the page, and, let's see what tomorrow brings. And I think that we have a responsibility to protect every single American. You can have a difference of opinion. I may not agree with your faith. I may not agree with your way of life. And as a religious leader, I would say, I may not agree with your choices and your love life or whatever it might be. That's okay. I have a right to my opinion and you have a right to your opinion. But as an American, you're protected by the Constitution. And we have to remember that, because the day that we forget that and it becomes a free-for-all, well, now we're going to be back to the Wild West where everybody is doing who knows what.
The Congress in Israel is Knesset? Is it?
Correct. Knesset, okay. Yeah.
My understanding is that it is the only democratic Congress in the Middle East. You can be a Christian and serve on there. You can be a Muslim, Druid, whatever the case may
Correct.
be. That doesn't exist in Egypt. That doesn't exist in Syria. That doesn't exist in Jordan. Only in Israel.
Right. And sometimes vigorous debate, by the way.
The interesting thing I find about that is that the freest Arabs in the Middle East live in Israel.
Israel, yeah. I saw a video, a large man, larger than me, fully bearded, in a dress, and I'll probably get in trouble for that because he might identify as something other than a man, but what I saw was a man in a dress at a protest in Los Angeles with pro-Gaza sentiments and anti-Israel sentiments, and I thought, well, that's interesting. You can do that in this country because of the freedom that we have, but the people that you're supporting aren't necessarily, well, they're not at all supportive of you or your position.
Right, go do that in Gaza. Let's see what happens. Well, right.
Yeah.
It's called the absolute mind fog, where people just, they don't understand what they're saying. And, I've been to Israel many times. I'll be in Israel in 2 weeks. I'm a Birthright Fellow. I take groups of young people from throughout the United States every summer, sometimes twice a year, and to give them this opportunity of learning. And I always tell them, you don't have to believe anything I say. My job is to give you opportunities. You think this is an apartheid state? I said, I have a very simple question. The bus driver's an Arab. Go talk to him. They go, no. I said, I'm telling you, his name is Mohammed. Go talk to him. And they'll say to him, so what do you think? And it's amazing. He talks Palestinians, Gaza, never, wipe him out. And I'm like, this is not me. This is not an American. This is not. People do not understand that Israel is not only a place that Christians worship freely, Jews worship freely, Muslims worship freely. The old city of Jerusalem actually has 4 quarters to it. There's the Armenian quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, and the Jewish quarter. And it's a place that is revered and holy to all faiths. And the Israeli government goes out of its way to protect these sites and to give everyone equal opportunity. Yes, it's primarily a Jewish country. By the way, it is the land of the Jewish people. But when we talk about the absolute ignorance, where people will say, well, the Jews got the state because United Nations felt bad for them after World War II. I say, let's stop. First of all, Jewish people have been living there since the time of Abraham and Sarah. King David had his capital there 3,300 years ago. There were always Arabs of that land living there. There were always Jews living there side by side. There were no Palestinian people. Jews were called Palestinians. Palestinian, by the way, is a term that the Romans gave to insult the Jews. If you look it up, after the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in the year 70, it was a term that was given, Philistina Capta, which is what they printed on the coins, was an insult to the Jews because David fought the Philistines. So it was an insult. We conquered you. I know Israelis till today who were born before 1948 in the British Mandate. Their passport says Palestine. And of course, the British Mandate, they called it Palestine. Yeah. But the irony is, what people don't understand, we're called Jews. In Hebrew, the word is Yehudi, Yehudim. Where does that come from? Yehuda, Judah. Most Jews today are from the tribe of Judah. Now, guess which land we came from? Judea and Samaria. Because we're Yehudim that come from Yehuda. And you know what the Arabs call us? Yahud. It's the same word. So the irony is you're taking an indigenous people from the land of Israel, who unfortunately we were kicked out, but there were always Jews living there. And we finally came back when, unfortunately, we experienced so much hate that many Jews realized that they have to come back home. And by the way, Israel is never about not allowing the Arabs to live there, to live side by side. And Israeli Arabs have equal rights in every way. But you got a lot of people that don't like that. And then, if you really want to get into the big historical problems, it's the refugees. What do we do with all these Palestinian refugees? And yeah, that's a big problem when you have refugees for 70 years and they continue to be refugees. Yep. And by the way, who created that refugee problem? It wasn't Israel. But it is an issue. And I do believe in human rights. I do believe in treating everyone with dignity. And I also believe in the responsibility of a country to protect itself and protect its citizens. And let me tell you something. If Mexico shot rockets into South Texas, goodbye Mexico. And for Israel to have tens of thousands of rockets, I've been there when rockets were fired, and the world telling them restraint, don't do anything, and their entire population living under the threat of rockets, and then the worst attack, 1,200 innocent people murdered, brutally raped, butchered, and people don't understand that this is an evil that has to be eradicated. Yeah. I'm all for peace. You want to talk about that fellow, with a dress and 6'5" and happy. You know what? God bless you. I hope you find happiness in your life. I'm not here to control you, but don't tell me what to do either. But when you start becoming violent and you want to harm other people, that's a problem.
I'm going to ask you a question. This is not a recent question. This is sort of a deeper conceptual question. The Jews are the chosen people, and a lot of people take that as sort of being favored by God. But it actually scares me because I don't know what they're chosen for, and it worries me because I don't know if I would be able to go through what the Jews have gone through throughout history. And I almost feel like being chosen is not necessarily something that's supposed to be a wonderful, happy experience. And I almost sort of think of the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. Could you talk a little bit about what it means to be a chosen people from your perspective?
There's an old joke that says the representative of the Jewish people comes to God and says, God, is it true that we're the chosen people? And God said, absolutely. He said, do you mind choosing someone else for a while? But you're right. This term, chosen people, comes from, of course, the Bible. Mm-hmm. And the way I understand it, the way I was taught is it's a responsibility. It's not saying that the Jewish people are smarter, better, or anything else. It's a responsibility because the term chosen people also comes with to be a light unto the nations of the world. And when you ask the question, what is the contribution of the Jewish people through the millennia of history? It's extraordinary. Yeah. Not only monotheism, not only the entire justice system that is based on the Bible, so much of what we call the Judeo-Christian values, it's all based on Judaism. So when somebody asks me, what does it mean to be the chosen nation? It's not like I'm walking around with some plume in my cap thinking I'm Napoleon Bonaparte, but it's really a sense of responsibility to be good stewards of the world. And Jewish people, by the way, whether they're Democrat or Republican, have always tried to make their place of living better. From Germany to Europe, to Israel, to the United States, it's ingrained in the way we raise our children to give back and to try to make the world a better place. And that's what I believe is my mission. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm not here to do anything besides, as a rabbi, of course, I'm always talking about the Torah, the Word of God. But I think it's about bringing this gift. And I believe with that comes hatred. And that's the big historical question. Why do people hate us so much? So at one point it was deicide. At one point it was the Black Plague. At another point it was Palestine, poor Palestinians. And at a different time it was, the Jews, were witches. Or, you go throughout history. But I think it ultimately comes that when someone is committed to something and they're supposed to give over the Word of God and they're supposed to be a light unto the nations, sometimes people don't like that. And by the way, a lot of Jews feel very uncomfortable with that term. I've had many conversations. And when I explained it in that context, it's not about being smart. I don't think Jews are smart. I don't think they're better. I think Jews value education. I think Jews value success because we believe in working hard. And what is the Talmud all about? It's about education. It's about raising your children on the principles that you believe in and to give back. And in the Jewish community, it's a big thing. You're supposed to give back. So, whether it's the tithing or whether it's volunteering, I always get a kick out, especially now with the universities where, they're protesting and burning down the building in pro-Palestinian whatever at the Oppenheimer Center at Columbia University that was gifted by a Jew. Look, it's a broad discussion. I believe that each and every one of us has a mission. I think God doesn't put us here by chance. I think every people and every person individually is here for a reason. And the Jewish people have a mission. And maybe, just maybe, out of all this craziness, will come out a sense that, I know it's so unpopular, but Israel really, really is doing a fantastic job of trying to protect civilian lives. And there's so much lies out there. Yeah. And Israel instructs its soldiers again and again. It would be a lot easier to just flatten Gaza, kill everyone, and do what we did in Dresden or what, in World War II or do in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just drop a bomb, clean it out. And instead, Israel is losing soldiers because they value life and they're trying to protect civilians. The problem is they're losing the PR war.
So we always promote some books that we carry at the Boerne Bookshop. And I just want to say that we have the Tanakh. This is the Holy Scriptures of the Jewish people. So
you know what the Tanakh stands for? What? It's 3 letters in Hebrew. The T stands for Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Right. The N stands for Nevi'im, the prophets. And the Chaf in Hebrew, the KH in this case, is Ketuvim, the scriptures. The 24 books of the Jewish scriptures are called the Tanakh, correct.
Okay.
Nice.
Today we're actually going to do another book that Ron wants to talk about.
Yeah, I read this book last year. It's called A Village in the Third Reich, and this is written by actually an English lady, Julia Boyd, with help from a villager in the village of Oberstdorf in Bavaria, in Germany. And she was the local historian, and they got together and they wrote a book about a village, and it starts in about the 1930s after World War I, and it goes to a little bit after World War II. And this is a village that was a resort. They were very fond of the Jewish people because they provided a lot of income through tourism. And then, Hitler comes to power, and slowly the village turns, and it walks you through this process. And when you have that question, and when you're in grade school and you're wondering, well, how the heck did that happen? How did all these Germans become so gullible?
Yeah.
This is based on accounts from families, from diaries, from the town's records, and it shows you how easily you can succumb to that sort of evil.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend that book to anybody. It's a well-written book.
And you recommended it to me, and I read it, and I think it's a phenomenal book also, the process of what that town went through to go from what we would consider normal to something just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it makes you look at what's out there now, and you wonder, where are we on that road?
If you email me that title, I'd love to read it.
I'll do that.
But at the end of the day, it's the same story for all of history. Hate has no place. And when people are hateful, whether it's in their marriages, in their business, or the world at large, it just destroys so much.
Rabbi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So that's going to wrap it up with Ceasefire, Dale and Ron. And if you miss any of it, you can go to BoerneRadio.com and check out our podcast. Thanks. See you next week.